On any given day, ships plying the Straits of Florida carry cargo worth a mere fraction of the treasure that sank beneath the waves. Scattered across the seabed are the wrecks of thousands of Spanish galleons and an untold fortune in gold.
There is a continuing hunt for treasure, particularly in the Caribbean, but elsewhere, for the wreckage of some of those ships where there will be gold coins and possibly gold bars on those ships.
The Great Florida Treasure Hunt was inspired by the greatest treasure tale of all time, Treasure Island, a book that left its mark on an Indiana boy named Mel Fisher.
He was interested in treasure hunting all his life, even when he was a little kid. And it was just something he always dreamed about doing and wanted to do.
When Mel grew up and moved to the Golden State of California, he went prospecting.
He had a dive shop out in California, and he used to save all his money and go treasure hunting for a hobby. And then his hobby, the vacations, treasure hunting, kept getting longer and longer, and finally, in the early 60s, he decided to go full-time treasure hunting.
Fisher's prize was a fleet of Spanish galleons that sank off the coast of Florida in 1715. He sold his business, packed up his wife and children, moved to Florida, and held his breath.
He and 6 other people all agreed to work for 1 year without pay and see if they could find the treasure.
Fisher's team swept 120,000 miles of ocean floor with a metal detector called a magnetometer. It can pick up a cannon, an anchor, or gold.
On the 360th day, 5 days before their deal was up, they dug a hole and it was full of gold doubloons.
That day, they brought up $50,000 worth of gold. Fisher was hooked. 2 years later, he began combing the Florida Keys for an even greater prize, the Spanish galleon Atocha, flagship of a 17th century treasure fleet bound for Spain.
They would gather up treasure from South America, Central America, and North America, and they would take it on smaller fleets to Havana, Cuba. That was like their hub. And there all the ships would meet up and they would form a large fleet and sail back to Spain, taking this tremendous flow of wealth. This flow of wealth continued for over 300 years.
Scores of treasure ships fell prey to swashbuckling privateers like Sir Francis Drake and Sir Walter Raleigh.
It was those gold coins that Drake and Raleigh and the other people were in pursuit of 400 years ago.
But the greatest threat to the treasure fleets wasn't marauding pirates. It was weather. When the Atocha set sail in August of 1622, hurricane season had already begun.
One day after they left Havana, they got caught in a hurricane, and the admiral ordered the fleet to sail west, thinking that they could sail out past the Florida Keys and ride out the storm in the Gulf of Mexico. And the fleets, the ships that followed the admiral all sank and perished. And the ships that disobeyed the admiral all survived.
More than 500 souls perished in the storm. Among the doomed ships was the one with the most gold, the Atocha.
Each of these shipments of gold from South America to Spain, they were all big shipments with large quantities of gold relative to the amount that was available in the world. And if for some reason they didn't arrive, armies would not get paid, armies would not get fed. It was extremely important to Spain.
There had not been a shipment of treasure to Spain for 4 years, and the king desperately needed this money to keep control of Europe. And when the Atocha sank, it was a devastating blow to the economy.
In 1970, Mel Fisher set out to find the Atocha.
Well, he read about the Atocha in Potter's Treasure Diver's Guide, and it had 4 stars next to it, meaning it had a lot of treasure on it. We knew there was 47 tons of gold and silver out there waiting for us. And then the research told us where it was, approximately, but it gave us a starting point.
The starting point was the upper Florida Keys, but the search led nowhere. 4 years later, the pivotal clue emerged across the Atlantic among dusty archives in Seville. a researcher scouring old salvage records discovered Fisher was looking in the wrong place.
He spent 3 years looking up in the upper Florida Keys and the Matacumbes, 100 miles in the wrong direction. It turned out that Potter had some bad research.
Fisher shifted his base to Key West and started over. Long on hope and short on money, he herded his family onto a leaky houseboat. He battled bill collectors and rival salvagers. He sold off minor treasures he'd found to keep searching for the treasure that eluded him. Yet Fisher never lost faith. Each morning he announced to his crew,